Have you ever flown in an airplane? It is such a new and different experience that it cannot be easily forgotten. Even though it's been many years ago, I still remember the first time I flew on an airplane. It was a little scary during takeoff, and it took me some time to get used to being up so high in the air. I love looking out of the window and seeing the land below from so high up. I could see roads and trees and houses, buildings and cars driving, rivers and lakes. It was fascinating. At times, the pilot would tell us what we were flying over, like the name of a state or a city. The view from the plane gave me a new perspective of the land beneath me. Traveling from one place to another by plane is much faster than traveling by car or bus. A trip that takes me about 16 hours to drive in a car is only a 2-hour flight by plane. But traveling by a car is also exciting because I can see more details that I would have missed if I was on an airplane. I can see old buildings and fields of flowers, historic places and old towns as I drive or ride along. It may take me longer to travel that way, but I enjoy it because it's a different way of traveling. And I like the perspective from being on the ground just as much as the view from above. When we study God's Word and travel through His story, so to say, sometimes we are flying overhead, while other times we are driving along. These past few days, you've been learning about the first part of God's story, God's creation and a crisis, God's promise of a people. God's people grow, and God's kingdom rise and fall. We've been flying high overhead in order to see where we will be picking up God's story for this year. The next 2 segments are God's people, captive and coming home, and God's salvation. As we travel through God's story, sometimes we will be flying high overhead, and sometimes we will be driving along through the details. When we view God's story from both of these perspectives, together we can learn so much more than had we only looked at it from one view or the other. Switching from an overview look at God's story to a ground level view is much easier than jumping from a plane to a car. You do not need a parachute. All you need to do is slow down and spend time in one section, like a certain book of the Bible or a chapter. Are you excited about our trip through God's story? Get ready for the best adventure you have ever been on.